Good morning, everybody. This correction so far is pretty controlled. Yesterday was a boring, choppy price action. I'm on an SPX here, but let's go to SPY. All right. Chaos incoming. Okay. Well, who knows what Mr. Powell's going to say today. It's hard to imagine he's going to say anything different than what he already said. I guess that could be chaotic if he changed his demeanor. Anyway, buyers are still pretty confident here. It sure appears. It didn't pull back very much. And one of the things we spoke about yesterday was the danger of them being too aggressive and making a turn before. Oh, sorry, man. I don't know what's my brain with these charts not showing them. The danger of them being too aggressive and making prices turn without some type of relatively meaningful pullback. Right? So what does meaningful pullback mean? Quantify that. And I would say somewhere down in this area here, down towards support. And the risk of that is, you can see the stabilization here, and it's down lower, right? It's pretty much right where it was yesterday. Is that it's so close to this resistance that it has the potential to make an M top. And then, of course, that is going to result, if that M top is triggered lower, in a bigger correction, since it was able to go sideways and then build a larger area of overhead supply that could drive prices deeper into this support. It's the same thing when you see bigger patterns like head and shoulders tops and distribution patterns, and M top is just a smaller one. And this isn't what I'd call climactic or that extended. It's had a really nice move, but climactic is one in which something like that, right? Where, those couple of days where it just goes vertical. Whereas on a daily chart, you see that and it's over multiple days. So this has got several support levels. The weekly chart, we talked about the greater than 100% retracement. So whatever happens, unless something triggers, like some news or whatever, something more serious, I think things are going to chop around here for a while until whatever they're looking for, which I don't know what we'll see. So right now, what I'd like to see is prices, pull back further. Maybe the 20 comes up, and that would provide a buy setup that could, move prices significantly more. Anytime you get a buy setup that's so close to resistance, it's lower odds because the sellers are right there. When it happens near the bottom of a move, it's much better setup that it can go higher than after it's been rising for a while. And, sentiment is still up here. And breadth, that dropped pretty good yesterday. Now down towards zero. When markets have been in strong uptrends, generally, now let me just back up on that statement to explain. Right, so when we look at market internals, we look at extremes. That give us guidance. But here, I probably said here, what prices are, you get a strong move like that at the beginning of a move. It historically typically means prices are going to go higher because it went from a bearish extreme to a bullish extreme so fast. But what typically happens is from the first peak, as it comes down to zero, it usually aligns with a good buy setup on the daily chart, where this was deteriorating and now it's at zero. So I just wanted to point that nuance out. Some things are dropping here a little bit. So, it's in the area SPX of 4,100. That's going to be some support. So let's keep going here. All right, let me just See where this is now. Still within within yesterday's bar. So far, an inside day. This is dropping. We want to see this come down ideally. Well, you see where the 20 is in my cursor. So this is kind of your minor support, but in reality, there's nothing to the left there. Minor support is always subjective. Just lining this up where this is at. You can see there's nothing there. It's down here where you've got a pivot low area. And now, let's just see this again. It's still within this range. So yesterday, that sideways going nowhere all day. If this, right, this is how we look at this, pivot highs, pivot lows, indecision. It's now built an area of support or resistance. Which way is it going to go? Can it take out the pivot highs, or is it going to take out the pivot lows? And this one right here, just below 408, you can see it there. Is it down below that yet? No, it's not. So that'll be the first point where buyers will give it a shot at that to see if it can flip it back up. And if that doesn't work, well, then, this is supply, and we'll see how far down this comes into this area. And right now, we're going to see if that holds and flip it back up. All right, keeps going. All right, so that now being known. Yes, inside day, no big deal. Then we go to SPX. And I know it's an inside day now because we don't have any data. And now, so with this contraction, the day-to-day 8 average true ranges have declined from yesterday to around 80. Now it's like 60 points. So let's do this. We want to take it from about here. So that's pretty good. And so that puts it down here in about the same area of this pivot low. And so 40-40. We go and look at where the premium is. Last I looked, I wrote down 40-25, 40-30, which I was kind of surprised to see, and it's juicing up even more. So you could even go 40-20. And so 40-20 down here, I look at that as being a no-brainer for today. If it comes down there, you've got this pivot low and that pivot low. So if for whatever reason this thing took a dive down there, you've got lines of defense, and it's so far for one day, it's going to bounce. You even got the 20 MA in that area. So that should be like a concrete wall, a steel wall. It just moves so far, so fast. And that's why I look at it as being a no-brainer. Even if it goes down there fast, it's going to bounce up. This is just too much unless some disaster happened. And you can't think about disasters. That's totally unknown. What can Powell say to make it drop that far? Oh, we know what he could say to make it drop that far, but he's not going to do it. He'd look like an ass. Right? He'd say, you know what, whatever I said last week, I was totally wrong. We're going to have to raise another 75 basis points at least or more before I'm done with this disaster that I created. And if he said that, the market would crater, because the market is totally on the side of believing, he's close to the end, and whatever he says, the way it's, it's moved, it's like, okay, they're going to do a quarter, maybe a quarter, and they're going to be done. Some believe that they might ease by the end of the year. So whatever, he's not going to do that. So it's no point in even thinking it. Is there any market bias advantage to watching foreign markets ETF? Norbert, there's a trap in thinking, I'm going to look at this, I'm going to look at this, I'm going to look at all of these things, and I'm going to know for sure, as to what's going to happen. And it becomes overwhelming, so that, you're looking at so many things. At some point, you're looking for perfection, and that runs into indecision. So I would suggest not doing it to see what, you can see if foreign markets are up in the morning or whatever. you could look at a daily chart to see if they're trending up or down, or maybe at their support or resistance or extended. But as far as more detailed, what is our market doing? And then as we look at that and we start looking at other markets within our market, right? What's showing relative strength, what's showing relative weakness, so on and so forth. Is the leading market, right? This was leading up. Is that at a prior swing high? Is that at resistance where that the one showing relative strength is going to stall? And maybe other things play catch up, but intermarket analysis, market internals, and so on. All right. So this is correcting. We'd like to see it come down a bit more. It's going sideways here. To think it come down some more, sure. Dow, we're going to see this is just a mess. So we'll see if it can get out of here one way or another. Just set an alert. You don't have to watch it. Just set alerts right down here. If it breaks through here, it's going to start going down to the next level. Or if it breaks out, Russell, same kind of a pattern. That's at resistance. I mean, look, most of what we talk about here, and we talk detailed nuances to price patterns because that's what we trade, price patterns. But the foundational information, we say, look to the left. Is there that support or resistance? How far did it run to get up there? Is it at a whole number? Most of it's common sense. Once you understand it, it's common sense. And so once you take this, the Ichikumi clouds off and all the other garbage, and you focus on basics, things get simple and relatively easier. All right. Interest rates, we talked about this bottoming out here at that support. The 10-year is actually, and the market's holding up pretty well. I mean, considering this has moved up where it has so far, as you know, markets didn't like interest rates going up, but will it get as high as this pivot? And yesterday we spoke about if it gets up there or beyond, the market is going to be going down more. Yes. So 0 TTA, they just cleared it 420. I believe is a no-brainer. And if the market drops, into the open here, you could probably go below that. I mean, it's not about, from my perspective, and it's not about, okay, I don't think it's going down there. So now that it's dropping, I can now, instead of whatever it was, 75 by 90 or whatever, it's now $1.50 by 2. It's about no-brainers. Meaning, that line from Trading Day. How did it go? You want to go home or whatever? However it went, it's like, you're going to trade these things. You want to go home at the end of the day, not with your head, in your hands. Bunts, not home runs. All right. Dollars inching up. So we got some bearish things going on. We spoke about yesterday. You can review yesterday's video, a little more detail about that. Bitcoin looks like it's going to break here. We'll see. It's got a little breakout failure. So far, it's holding up. It's a little extended. So that could come down. It could be in alignment with everything else we've talked about. The market's coming in a bit. The transports holding up pretty well. Right? So they're not running away, even though things are short-term extended and at resistance and all of that stuff. But we'll see at some point if the selling picks up. Hopefully it gets down a bit deeper so that the distance to the prior high is big enough that it would make sense to consider long trades. There was no 45. What is Josh saying? On AL climactic Celsius, there was no 45 explained. I'm not sure what that means. 45. I think you mean this stock. This thing takes a while to fill it in if it's the first time, because I have so many pages or layouts opened up. Are you saying no 45 options? Let me just look at it on I think that's what you mean. There were no 45 options. I'm not sure what you mean. So that's a bit climactic. I'm not sure what the 45 refers to. I see 45 may be your platform expanded to all strikes. What other chat? I'm reading from when we're talking here, Chris, in the morning. This, pre-market analysis goes out to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, so people can comment and I can read that. So I'm not sure what you mean by the 45s, if that was this year, but it's so far away. I would imagine why would they have a call strike up there? All right, I don't think there's much more for me to review. I mean, we have our bias for the day. We'll see. So far, things are pretty calm and quiet. We'll see how much they correct or not. And so just as for those that are new online there, we'll be online on Thursday at noon. And we'll be talking about with McGraw about SPX, trading SPX credit spreads and how that all operates and hedges and all that stuff. So it'll be cool, really great. So thank McGraw for sharing everything that he knows about that. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. So our bias yesterday was a continued pullback. So that's what we're giving. Let's see here. This was a long straddle. I just posted an adjustment here, gapping up here over 36. And so let's try to leg out of this thing. It expires Friday. That was an earnings speculation trade we did. We only did one for yesterday. Well, for today, actually, pins. Started off ugly last night, and now it's pretty darn flat. So we should be pretty close to max profit on that. So let's try to close it at 2 cents. This little cano bottom right here, I just saw pop in here coming out of a big old base bottoming pattern. That's a long watch. Let's let it stabilize at the open. This IRTC was in the weekend letter. Alarm just went off. I see one print up here. We're trying to sell out of the money puts on that. SQL is blasting off here for some reason, but too extended. WWE with the 1, 2, 3 from yesterday. I see one print. We'll come back to you. SWK was in the weekend letter. I like daily, weekly, monthly, but this negative gap, it's damaged a little bit. So ideally, I just wanted to swap around for a couple days. JB Hunt, today's Tuesday, over Friday's high. Looks great for put spread. LAC I just posted pre-market as a put spread. It's a sloppy buy setup, but look, it's gapping over this. So that's a very bullish gap. Let's try to sell out of the money puts. So put spread, I already have an order out pre-market at 35-cent limit. Riven, a little EV stock. Ideally, it'll just slop around for another 2-3 weeks, and then we can get a longer term entry. Riot buy set up here. This is one of the Bitcoin stocks. I just looked at Snap because of pins, and that had a nice closing breakout. And it has air on the weekly monthly, so that's a long watch. Alex and I have been watching this BKR for over a week now. And my alarm, I had an alarm at 32, which just went off, but I don't see any prints up there. So I reset it and on 3205. AMC, we have a put spread. I moved stop yesterday's low, BBBY. We have a put spread in this. We covered half in the strength yesterday. We're short the $2 naked puts. And with a disclaimer, I said there's a lot of news pending on this thing, because even way up here when it rallied to $6, I went to close the put spread and it was still like 19 cents. I'm like, you're freaking out of your mind. And this is, and we talked about it in the green room. We said there's only one humanly possible reason, it's that there's pending news. So they did get, the Journal said, $1 billion, bailout, but we're chartists. So that this is telling me that the stock market doesn't like the terms of that buyout. AI, we did a call spread on that. It's a Climo. We talk about volume. Remember, we talked about volume igniting and ending. This is actually an igniting one right here relative to all the other volumes, even though it's small now. But look at that igniting bar. And now look at the size of this bar. Man, I just noticed this. 104 million shares yesterday. This was like, with the high, this was almost like 2 wide range ending bars with a close of a topping tail. We sold a 35 strike call spread on that yesterday, but that volume is adding to the bias of a short-term capitulation. But there's a lot of talk going on now in the AI space. I think Microsoft, I don't know if this is the reason it's gapping up, but it came out and said something with that today. Baidu said they're doing something with this AI. That's a big old gap. So AI is the new buzzword right now for a little bit. Blink. This was not earnings, but I noticed last night it got smacked. No pattern. Blink is one of those charging stations. Yeah, the GPT-3 stuff. We talked about that one. All right, these are all earnings now. Let's take a peek. All right, pins we talked about. ATVI. All right, this one I wanted a call spread. And this thing's been giving me wrong earnings dates for a while. But let's see, it's gapping up. It's actually gapping up over this ugly red bar. So that's a put spread idea for Friday. That makes yesterday's low a very focal bullish point. Not much volume. We'll come back to you. T2. This could be a day trade long. It's gapping out of this big base with a price void. That's a definite day trade long idea and put spread idea. I'm going to put that in a window. Other computer. T2. CNF, I don't see any gaps. Gap into 115. That's strong. I just don't like. It's far from the 20 and 20 far from the 50, but that's very strong. No prints. Zulu India. This is one I personally shorted the 2250 puts. So despite this big gap down, I guarantee you I'm going to have a beautiful open profit because the 22.5s are so far away. So I already have my order out to close at a nickel. ACM, I wanted to buy yesterday's high, provided it opened flat, and it's not now, so just take it off the list. This is a buy on a pullback, daily, weekly, monthly, look great. NOV gapping at $24 right in the middle of the. We were talking about doing a condor on this one actually, so condor would have worked perfect, but no pattern now. Powie, looks like a short-term top. Leg 30. Wow, that's a big gap. Wow, that's a big gap. So let's 30-minute high maybe. Put spread, we'll see. ABBV. It's weak. Yeah, see that had this green bar was a something bar, which failed. So yeah, that still looks lower. Oh, one of you mentioned Myrna. I haven't looked at. Yeah, Myrna's a short watch. Sure. Yeah, put that on the list. SSD still pulling in. Rambus. Rambus, as long as it's a little it's damaged. We'll come back to you. Diode. If it can stabilize around these prices, it's a strong daily, weekly, monthly. This no pattern, trading range. You're gone. Berber. I don't like the way it trades, but it's a strong uptrend. It'd be a put spread idea if there's any juice. Sky, no pattern. I don't see a gap. Burns. Don't like the way it trades, but again, look at the 20. See, when things trade like this is another great use of the moving averages. Because look, 20 parallel and above the 50. So that is smoothing out these crazy looking bars that if you tried to use bar by bar analysis, it would drive you nuts. So that's actually a great example of what I just said. This is bullish daily, weekly, monthly. Let's 30-minute high. That's a long idea. Gap and down. This was the one I said yesterday. We could trade it up or down depending on whichever way it broke. The only problem is it's gapping. Man, it scares me. The only problem is it's gapping too big for me. This one's too far from the 20, but strong. Let's see, I had an old alarm go off here. STRL. STRL alarm. All right, well, let's buy 5-minute high. Because this was in the weekend letter, and that's why the alarm went off. But it's just a tail. So I don't want to do anything with it right now. I'll put it in a window. I might even cancel it if the market stays weak. All right, this BBBY. So check this out. This is despite this nasty gap. Let's close it at 10 cents. So this is only 1 penny higher than what it closed at. Isn't that insane? I just don't want the gap risk anymore. BKR, Alex, up alarm again.